Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to another episode of Film Therapy. I'm your host, Giovanni Laurent. First things first, moment of silence for Chadwick Boseman. Thank you. Chadwick, we miss and we love you. Now it's time to talk about Black Panther 2. If you're tuned in right now, I want to tell you that Black Panther 2 was probably the best Marvel movie that came out in Phase 4. Of all the Marvel movies that came out this year, Multiverse of Madness, Eternals, Thor 4, which was an absolute abomination, Black Panther 2 was probably the best movie that came out of all of that. And it actually reassured me as to what Marvel was doing, because it seemed to me as though Marvel has lost their touch since, I think it was Spider-Man No Way Home was one of the last movies that actually had a sense of story, a good story element to it. Every movie after that has tried to mimic what Marvel had in the beginning stages, phase 1, 2, and 3, but it just kept falling short. It seemed as though they kept focusing around the multiverse aspect of everything rather than actually creating a good story and plot. But Black Panther 2 really brought that back in. So of course this is after the late Chadwick Boseman has passed away, and Marvel had to rewrite the script for this movie, and they did a phenomenal job, I will say. Shuri, the main character, she did a great job carrying the movie, but it really felt like the movie wasn't about a sole main protagonist. It felt as though I was actually watching a docu-piece about two warring nations and their struggles to find a way to either coexist or just assimilate together as a whole. It seems as though Wakanda thought that they were the only powerful nation, but now learning that there's another nation more powerful that was allowing Wakanda to be the more popular, known, powerful nation while they remain in the shadows as the more dominant nation. It just seems though Wakanda was not prepared for that. And it was definitely a culture shock. And I think Shuri being as open-minded as she was throughout the whole movie is what ultimately allowed them to form that alliance at the end. Now, to talk about certain story elements, I will point out, going from top to bottom, starting off with Shuri, I think her character development was amazing. To go from grieving her brother in the beginning to being unable to grieve her brother in the beginning, to finally be able to grieve him at the end, to going from a sidekick in the first movie to now taking up the mantle as Black Panther in this movie. I felt like that was a great part of the story. Other characters such as Okoye, and how in the first movie she seemed as though she played more of a general role. In this movie she seemed as more of a parental guidance role, and that probably plays a big part in Shuri even developing into who she is by the end of the movie. I will say Riri Williams, her character seemed very forced. I'm not gonna lie. It seemed like they introduced her just the same way they introduced America Chavez, as though they just throw in a character who's already like has the powers. It's like there's no origin story. She just is who she is, and now she just has to eventually catch up to everybody else. That felt a little bit forced. But now to talk about Namor, oh my god, bro. Namor was probably up there in my top 3 list of best Marvel villains. Number 1 is Thanos. Number 2 would have to be Ultron. And number 3 is now Namor. Namor is up there in the list. He and the other 2 candidates for the top 3 best are honestly some of the hardest characters to debate with as far as motives, because their motives seem so sound and so concrete that you almost start to side with them, or you almost start to see their point of view. I think that makes for the best villains, is when you can almost see their point of view. And Namor, he was ruthless, he was scary. There was the scene with on the beach where I was genuinely terrified. There was the other scene on the beach where he was holding Shuri hostage and he threatened the queen. I think Namor did a great job, or the actor did a great job of conveying kindness as well as ruthlessness. You could tell that he was sweet, but you could also see the sinister side of him. It was very, very compelling. I believed his performance. I was invested in his performance. I couldn't shake his performance. Now, as for the story plot, I will say it is a little weird how Wakandans were getting bodied left and right. I will say it is a little weird how a lot of Wakandans were getting, taken, unalived, and it seemed as though we were kind of moving on, like letting bygones be bygones without, I don't know, it seemed as long as the main Wakandans weren't hurt, it didn't seem like the movie cared about the side character Wakandans, As for Chadwick, crazy enough, the movie actually did a good job of establishing his character even in death. Most notably would have to be M'Baku. We saw a lot of character development for T'Challa even after his passing. When Shuri had to take up the mantle of Queen after her mother tragically passed away, we saw that M'Baku was providing her with guidance and was basically acting as her advisor, and it just seemed like M'Baku was implying that T'Challa requested that he took care of his little sister in the case that she needed it. And I thought that was really special, that from the first movie where M'Baku and T'Challa had a rivalry of sorts, it was good to see that T'Challa had such a good heart that he could not only see the good in others, but he could also see the good in people who didn't portray it on the surface. Because M'Baku's character, contrary to belief, he is very wise and intelligent, and I think that T'Challa was able to notice that, whereas other people see him as just a brute, as just a muscular muscle man, whereas he's actually very wise and intelligent. So him asking, T'Challa asking M'Baku to be Shuri's advisor was very, 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 very good for the character development and for the plot, in my opinion, for the story. It provided a very sentimental aspect to that. T'Challa was actually able to see more of people's characters and to just their different sides of themselves. Even in the end of the first Black Panther, where Killmonger was unfortunately killed, you saw T'Challa sympathize with him, and even though their ideologies were different, that was still his cousin or his family, his brother. That was still a member of the Wakandan nation, and he could still sympathize with that. And that just goes to show for T'Challa's big heart. And as far as the movie, it felt as though this was kind of a origin story for another movie coming out. It felt as though this was a pocket story, if you would. It felt as though this story was its own little thing outside of the bigger plan of what's going on with the whole multiverse. And I think that's what I liked so much about this movie, was the fact that it was its own thing. There was no other multiverse. There wasn't a different T'Challa that came out of nowhere. It was just a regular story with the regular characters that we already have. There was no surprise guest. Freaking Aquaman didn't come out of nowhere, and oh my god, I'm getting so tired of this multiverse stuff, bro. But that's besides the point. As far as the movie, I will give it a 9 out of 10. The movie was great. I hope everybody goes and watches it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go watch Black Panther 2. It was a beautiful movie. And yeah, 9 out of 10. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. I'm actually going to go watch Bones and All, so expect a video on Bones and All very soon. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.